2024. It is amazing that we are so close. I am so excited to share some information with you here before the end of the year. We've got some exciting things going on. As we jump into this live stream, hey, please hit that thumbs up button. That helps other people see this video, but also make sure you subscribe to the channel. We have about 35% of the viewers of our most recent videos are not subscribers to this channel. So if you're not subscribed, we'd love to see you subscribe to the channel. Some amazing ideas that have been brewing around in my head for the last couple of months here, especially looking at the new year starting, a new administration coming into power, and really looking at ways that we can leverage the current climate of anti-obesity medications to really make an impact generationally for obesity. Listen, I think we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity with the current climate of anti-obesity medications, the current conversation taking place on social media and within the GLP-1 bubble. We have the power to really make some lasting and impactful change. So I'm going to share some ideas with you today that I've been having that I would like to pitch to the new incoming government. I'm going to need your input too in the comments of this video because I don't have all the answers here, but I do believe I've laid out a really good foundation for a concept of what I think the new administration needs to look seriously at rolling out. So before we do that, hit the like, hit the bell, hit the sub. We're going to get going here. The proposal here is also available at onthepen.com. I will link this in the description below. So again, we've got an administration coming in at the end of January that was in charge of Operation Warp Speed. Operation Warp Speed was a whole of government approach to combating the coronavirus back in 2020. And I really think that this is a template that needs to be reused by the incoming administration to fight obesity. So think of it as Operation Warp Speed 2.0. And so I want to lay out the different facets, the foundations, some bullet points that I think should guide potential Operation Warp Speed for obesity. And I hope that this gets to the right people and that good conversations could be had, because there are some, like the guy that they're potentially the Trump administration is looking at putting in charge of the FDA. He's the current Chief Medical Officer of Sesame Health. That is a huge telehealth company that provides anti-obesity medications and including compounds. And so this is a big topic of conversation right now. Of course, January 2nd, we're looking at very closely. That's when the Outsourcing Facility Association and the FDA have to report back to the court, and we could potentially see a delay in enforcement for the FDA by the judge in that case. So we're watching that very closely. But I want to go over these 11 points that I have about Operation Warp Speed 2.0, Operation Warp Speed for obesity. So the first point is just that we need to inject massive federal spending into the obesity problem. If you look at, again, using Operation Warp Speed as a template, essentially what we had is that the government didn't just fund research. Hey, DJ, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. It's very kind of you all. Thank you. A quick shout out to Mrs. Bell. Good to have you here. Sue the Dude, Lynn K, Marty, welcome. Mimi in Australia, g'day, mate. John and Debbie's here. Welcome, especially to the members of this channel. Really appreciate you being here. So I think that injecting massive federal spending was part of what helped Operation Warp Speed, because they didn't just fund research, they took the risk out of the development of these drugs and really fast-tracked the ability to manufacture new versions of medications. So we need the next generation of these drugs, but even the current medications have such a profound impact on obesity. We've seen obesity rates for the first time in my life actually go down. Like that is amazing news. Forging public partnerships was another thing that really helped Operation Warp Speed work, where you had essentially not just government, but you had pharma, logistics providers, all of them under one roof, coordinating for defeating the coronavirus. We need the same total approach to anti-obesity medications in the same coordination to combat obesity. Public health agencies like the NIH, the FDA, the CDC should be working hand in hand with companies like pharma companies like Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly, alongside compound pharmacies, which I think from a manufacturing standpoint are wholly necessary to meet the need for the demand for anti-obesity medications. 3 would be subsidizing access and insurance partnership, insurance coverage. Access is the Achilles heel right now to these medications. Access is the Achilles heel to really leveraging what these anti-obesity medications can do. And so we need to see Medicaid and Medicare fully cover anti-obesity medications, and we need private insurers incentivized to follow suit. Beyond insurance, we need direct subsidies to low-income individuals who do not have the ability to afford these medications, like a federal obesity savings card that would cap the max out-of-pocket amount that somebody would have to pay to get access to these medications. Accelerating FDA approvals is another thing. The Operation Warp Speed didn't just fund vaccines, it slashed timelines by running clinical trials and manufacturing in parallel. The FDA could fast track new anti-obesity medications and expand the indications for the existing ones at a more rapid pace. They could streamline the regulatory process for bringing on manufacturing capacity. And I think that's the big one right now, is that capacity is coming online, but it's coming on very slowly because of a lot of bureaucratic red tape. We need as much capacity on hand as possible to meet the demand for these medications. Incentivizing domestic production. If you're just jumping in here, we're talking about Operation Warp Speed for obesity. This is a proposal that I have that I'm hoping will catch the eye of the incoming administration, and that we can get our voice in the GLP-1 community heard as they look at new potential avenues for legislation and policy creation. So hit the thumbs up button. That will help other people see this live stream, and please consider sharing it someone. But incentivizing domestic production, we've already seen this with Eli Lilly starting to repatriate some anti-obesity medication API. And so not only, like, if COVID taught us anything, is that having our medication made overseas is problematic, because if there's any hiccup in the supply chain, it's devastating to accessibility to medication, not just anti-obesity medication, but any medication. Think antibiotics or anything. So what we need to see here is we need to see essentially tax breaks, grants, low-interest loans for manufacturers to encourage them to move API of anti-obesity medications, and I would say all medications, back to the United States. Matt said, when the nominees of the Department of Health and Human Services says the cure to obesity isn't medication, just eat better, I'm not hopeful for it. Yeah, so Matt, I wholeheartedly disagree with what you're saying. I do agree that RFK Jr. is misguided on this, but it's not just him. He doesn't represent the entire administration. You got to look at who they're putting in charge of the FDA. The person they're putting in charge of the FDA right now is the Chief Medical Officer of Sesame Health. Sesame Health provides anti-obesity medications, including compounded medications. I think I'm very bullish on this new administration taking this problem very seriously, and I don't think that it will be one person unilaterally making all the decisions. If it was only RFK, I would agree. There's a lot of things that he said that are problematic, but even most recently, he was interviewed, real quick interview at I think it was the opening of the stock market about a week ago by Jim Cramer, and he said anti-obesity medications have their place. GLP-1s have their place. And so I think he will come around, because I think there are a lot more level-headed people that understand this problem a lot more than he does. I just think that he is actually more focused on some of the things that I do get into here. So we'll keep plowing through here. So incentivizing domestic production, I think, is really important. Rethinking the delivery system. So we talk often about the pens. The injector pens are very convenient, but they provide a exorbitantly complex manufacturing process to make. And they are the hiccups and the reason why we have been experiencing such dramatic shortage of these GLP-1 medications. We need to actually follow the lead of compound pharmacies who have been filling the void for the shortages for the last couple of years, where they were able to crank out 80 million doses of compounded GLP-1s in 2023 alone. They did that because they released them in vials. We need to be scrapping these pens. We need to get rid of them. They're bad for the environment. They're bad for accessibility. They're only good for defending patents in court for these companies. We need to 86 that, find a way to 86 these pens and get more of these medications into people's hands. So we need to rethink the delivery system. 7, we need to implement national bulk buying programs. Part of the reason that Operation Warp Speed succeeded in part was because the federal government negotiated massive bulk purchases of vaccines. A similar program for anti-obesity medications could leverage the government's purchasing power to secure lower prices while guaranteeing manufacturers a market for their medications. And I think that this is hugely important, that we also have Medicare and Medicaid able to arbitrate for the cost of medications similarly to the way they do in other countries. Susan wants to know, would anyone agree to reduce Social Security in exchange for GLP-1 coverage? Very interesting proposal, but people get pretty squirrely when you start talking about Social Security. Number 8, protect the compound pharmacies. This is extremely important, in my opinion, because 503Bs have played a massive role during the shortage, and I think provided a template of how we can provide enough medication to meet the problem here, which is nearly 100 million people in the United States who could potentially benefit from treatment of anti-obesity medication. So how do we meet that demand? 503Bs are critical. We need to ensure protections for 503Bs so that they are able to safely and effectively supplement the supply of anti-obesity medications, particularly in underserved areas. I think I would maybe add to this also that we need to have third-party checks and make sure that the drugs that they're manufacturing are safe. We need to make sure that they are safe and effective for people. So we'll be advocating for protecting the 503B pharmacies in all of this as well. Reform to SNAP and school meal programs. So obesity prevention starts young. Obviously, there's an element genetically that kids are more predisposed, but obviously the nutrition part of it makes a big difference. So we need to reform the SNAP program to emphasize fresh, whole foods over high-calorie, high-processed foods. We want to trade high calorie to densely nutritious, highly nutritious, and that could help set the foundation for better lifestyle changes from a young age. We could also, in addition to reforming SNAP, expand it to coverage fitness equipment. Physical activity is a critical component of weight management, but many low-income individuals who rely on stuff like the SNAP program could benefit from being able to use some of those dollars towards fitness gear, towards resistance bands, weights, treadmills, things like that, to help them to better manage their overall health. And the last one would be tax credits for wellness participation. Employers have a role to play here too, right? If they could receive some sort of tax incentive to implement wellness programs, such as subsidizing gym memberships or offering rewards to meet fitness goals, this can promote healthier habits for people as far as lifestyle modification and interventions, in addition to the expanded accessibility of anti-obesity medication. And so these are the 11 points that I laid out. I am very interested to hear in the chat, in the comments of this video, what your thoughts and opinions are about what could be added here or maybe tweaked. But the main thing is we need to get this concept of Operation Warp Speed for obesity out into the debate, into the public realm, so that this new administration can take this seriously. Because I really think, again, we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to really get our hands around the problem and the epidemic of obesity in this country that is such a burden on our health system, that is such a burden on individuals living with the disease. I think that this is a huge opportunity if done right. So I hope that this video and that the article at onthepen.com can catch the eyes of the people that matter the most, and that we can get our voices as the GLP-1 community, people who have benefited and had their lives transformed and impacted by these medications, and that stories about accessibility issues that people face can be told, because the main problem with GLP-1s right now is just everybody can't get them. So how do we get them into more hands? How do we get more shots into more bodies? How do we get more accessibility to healthier foods? How do we get rid of some of the metabolic disruptors that exist in our food system? How do we have a total of government approach, a total of society approach to tackling this epidemic of obesity? It cannot happen without the conversation about the impact of anti-obesity medications like zepbound, like Wegovy, or even the diabetic versions that people are more familiar with, like Ozempic and mounjaro. So that is what we are advocating for. I want to hear in the comments of this video what your thoughts are. A couple of housekeeping things. We will be back with On the Pen live next week, so stay tuned to On the Pen live next week, next Thursday at 9 p.m. Central. We'll be back with the podcast next week as well. We just hit 100,000 downloads on the podcast, which isn't even a year old. We're a couple weeks away from the podcast being a year old. We just hit 100,000 downloads, a massive milestone. Drop 100,000 in the comments and help us celebrate that. That was a huge milestone. Of course, we won the viewers or the listeners' choice award for podcast of the year in Iowa this past year. So we've had some really amazing things to reflect back on. We will be working on a end of year recap. I'm interested in hearing in the comments of this video also what some of your highlights from On the Pen were this year. Some of the ones that jump out was obviously being able to talk to the CEO of Eli Lilly, Dave Ricks, the Release the Vials campaign being highlighted in Fortune magazine, the release of the book. This was such a huge monumental year On the Pen history, and I'm so glad to have shared so much of it with you. Of course, Mimi drops 100,000 in the chat. I noticed, Mimi, that the two of the most watched episodes of On the Pen Live, our live show this year, were the Mimi episodes. Mimi, of course, is in the retatrutide trials, which is, of course, retatrutide and the future of these medications is extremely exciting and a frequent topic of conversation here at On the Pen. So I hope you'll hit the thumbs up button before we leave. I hope that you'll hit the bell notification. I hope that you'll share all of this. We'll be uploading the year-end recap here in the next couple days, and we'll be back with the podcast and live show next week. I hope that you all have had a wonderful year. I hope that you all have had a wonderful Christmas and holiday break. I hope that you're enjoying the people that matter most to you. Mrs. Bell, of course, we have a podcast. It's called The Weekly Dose, and it's just under a year old. We hit 100,000 downloads for the podcast for the year. So it's been a huge year in On the Pen. So make sure you stay in touch with us this week as we drop that year-end video. Just super excited for everything that's going on the Pen, and super happy and privileged to be able to do it with you all. So thanks for hanging out with me a little bit today. Share this everywhere. Make sure, let's get it in front of the people who matter the most. Oh, thank you, Mindy. Mindy just $19.99 super chat for anyone who cannot afford a copy of the book, so that we can send you a free copy of the book. So if you need a copy of the book and you cannot afford it, send me an email at david@onthepen.com. Anybody, like, you can get it on Amazon right now. $14.99 for the paperback or $9.99 for the ebook. But if that's too much for you to swing, I just want it to get in the hands of people. I will find a way to get you a copy, and Mindy is donating. We probably get a couple copies for that. So thank you, Mindy, for that. I appreciate it. Thank you for being the best part of what we do here at On the Pen. I've got to clean the house. We got company. We got never-ending family things going on during the holidays. All good things, but I'm still kind of fighting a throat thing. I don't know if you could hear that in my voice or not, but thank you so much for being a part of this community, and we'll catch you on the next one.